Hi, thanks for your company and welcome to the Wellbeing Conversation. This chapter is a little bit different. This is our Wellbeing Conversation wrap, where we look back on the series as a whole, and we've got some special guests to introduce to you today. First off though, I'd love to welcome once again my co-host throughout the series, ANZ Ambassador, Paralympic gold medalist, and now two-time French Open champion, Dylan Alcott. Dylan, hello and congratulations.
G'day, Brad. Thanks, mate. Look, got some props. It's just sitting here next to me. This is the French Open title. I'm currently in hotel quarantine. So I'm on day 13 of day 14. So it's been a long 2 weeks, but mate, I've really enjoyed the series and looking forward to this little wrap party.
It is a wrap party. It is going to be a lot of fun. Now, joining us today, our guests are members of the ANZ team. So we'll go through them. Joining us, we have Sarah Soncini. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Brad. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. Also joining us today, Emily Wandel. Hello, Emily. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. Very excited to be here.
Third cab off the rank joining us today from ANZ, we have Kriston Scholken. Hello, Kriston.
Howdy doody. Really been enjoying the Wellbeing Conversation and great to be part of it.
And also joining us today, let's welcome also from ANZ, Brendan Rinaldi. Hello, Brendan.
Hey, Brad. Good to see you again. And well done, Dill, on your recent win.
Well done indeed. Now, it's great to have you all with us. Before we move on and we get your thoughts on a little bit about the Wellbeing Conversation, but also on how you've been going through the whole COVID experience, let's just recap and give everyone a little taste of what we've experienced and enjoyed the past few months.
And here's a little taste on what's coming up on the next episode of the Wellbeing Conversation.
I've seen a lot of people struggle with their identity.
Am I the only person that has no purpose? Am I the only person that is feeling this? Am I the only person that isn't sure about what's going to happen next?
And I think right now, with the changes we're going through, if we can't find a way of unlearning the old habits and rituals, we'll never have the time to learn new ones.
We are the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves.
When we allow that to be just a currency that we operate with and allow it to be laced with this idea of not being good enough as a human being, that's where it goes wrong.
As soon as you released that emotional baggage and started talking about it, my life honestly changed immediately.
It's our decisions, not the conditions, that determine our mindset, our self-worth, and our attitude.
You can author your own story rather than wait for the news channel to tell you what's next, or the rule book, as we were saying earlier. It's not necessarily going to come in a straightforward way.
A lot to digest from the Wellbeing Conversation. It's certainly been a past few months that we haven't really experienced before. We'll start with Sarah. Sarah, how have you found the last few months?
Well, I've actually come back to work from parental leave during the pandemic. So challenge upon challenge. So it's a bit difficult to explain to a 1-year-old, while yesterday you were walking in the kitchen, you're available, and then the next day when you walk into the office, you're no longer available to them. I guess that's been pretty challenging. Lots of ups and downs. When I came out and spoke about my mental health condition at ANZ and created the Mental Health Network, it was when I started to feel like I had a purpose in life, and by being vulnerable, particularly during this pandemic, I think it's really helped a lot of other people to share about how they're feeling and how they're coping with it.
Look, that's fantastic feedback, Sarah. It really is. Emily, what about you? I mean, Sarah touched on her experience, but as we heard throughout the Wellbeing Conversation, we're all different and it's impacted us all differently, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely resonate with Sarah though, because obviously when it was we were all working from home, we were, homeschooling, plus throw in a toddler that thinks that this is just fun and games that they can play with you all day long. It really is super challenging. And I think it was a daily, often struggle to just not be and feel completely overwhelmed by the whole situation. So it was a day-by-day process, and one that I think the biggest thing I took away from it was that every day is allowed to look different. No day needs to be the same. Just do what you have to do to get through it.
What about for you, Christon? Did any days look the same, or did they all just blur into one another?
Oh, they're all very different. I very much reflect on the period we've been going through as just very character defining. I often reflect on sort of how it all came to play for me personally. And it was interesting as things got really, really material in Victoria. So during March, I had my younger brother just about to get married in Wellington, and I was the best man at that wedding for our family, who have been very separated because my parents sort of separated when we were relatively young. It was a big deal. And, I remember that weekend coming into the 19th of March and, we had ScoMo on the TV telling us about sort of border closures and things like that, which effectively meant we had to bring forward that whole trip. And there was tears and family meetings and Zoom calls and some really, really challenging decisions that needed to be made, but one that I think tested us all, but have very much shown true colours and probably brought a lot of the things that we've been aware of sort of subconsciously to the surface as being sort of our core values and our true purpose in life, things like family. So it's been interesting, but I think very productive at the same time.
And Brendan, one of the chapters was all about resilience and perspective. And I think it's fair to say for so many of us, if not all of us, our perspective can't help but change through what we've been through the past few months.
Yeah, totally. And I think, one of the quotes by Georgia early in the piece was, what if this is happening for us, not to us? So if you shift the perspective in these things, it can help. And I think that's the brilliant thing of this whole conversation series is there's been various different perspectives from different speakers and, yourself and Dylan included in that. And, it's been such a roller coaster for different individuals, for different states even. Christon's been in Victoria and living through a very different environment to what we have here in South Australia, for example. So different for everyone. I mean, for me personally, I loved it early on, to be honest, apart from the initial anxiety of what's this going to mean for all of us. But then just being at home was kind of, I had a 1-year-old at home. She's now 18 months now, but to see that growth, the paternity leave I never got to have, right, to be at home with the kids. But then from a work perspective, it was more around, taking on the challenge from a leadership perspective, and all the leaders that I'm associated with, we all stood really close together, and we're not experts in wellbeing, but we have got a responsibility to bring these conversations to light, which we have through this series, but also even within our individual businesses, we brought resources in. We've got an amazing support network of organisations and people that we can bring to help our people through times like this, and I think that sort of adds resilience to the team, and through having these conversations and education and the tools to lean on has really helped through this.
And Dylan, the feedback that I've had from so many people is you have helped them because you are an open book. You're just happy to just let everyone know how you're feeling and what you struggle with.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the most important things that I learned early on in my life that I reflected throughout the series. But, as I said throughout it, like when COVID hit, I probably wasn't being true to myself and honest, talking about my feelings with the people that I loved. And as soon as I started communicating that, I started feeling a lot better. I've also now had the very different journey. I've just got back from 6 weeks overseas. So I know what's going on around the rest of the world as well. I spent 10 days in New York. I've been in Paris for a month. We flew home through Japan, and seeing the different ways that people have been handling the pandemic was pretty eye-opening. And it was also pretty scary at some points. Like we were in a bubble when I was playing tennis. However, there was 30,000 cases every day in France when I was there. And everybody's wearing their masks on their elbows and not on their faces. And, that can be quite, the anxiety while being there was quite high for my partner Chantel and I, not only wanting to be safe, but, getting tested to be able to do my job at the Grand Slams and things like that. So it was a whole nother experience. And, I'm from Melbourne, which is a part of the world that's been in the longest lockdown in the world, So my heart goes out to everybody that has been struggling and things like that. But perspective's everything, and I know where I'd rather be from, which is the place where I know I'm safe.
Great feedback as always. Sarah, how did you find the whole experience? And Brendan touched on it that, in Victoria, ANZ people were impacted more heavily than in other states or even overseas. Were you really relying on each other right around the network?
Well, I'm in Victoria, so yeah, still in sort of partial lockdown. But I think what was really important is that we were really open about what we were feeling. So I think early on there, when I came back from parental leave, I was, plodding away, pretending life was normal, and expecting to get the sort of same outcomes. But I wasn't, and I would notice that I would burst into tears over the smallest things. And the thing is, we've had people rally around you. I remember in one meeting, someone said, "Oh, it must be hard to be raising your son without getting to see your mother," because my mum was in regional Victoria. And I remember bursting into tears, but then everyone rallying around me and saying, "Well, I feel like this, and I'm going through this, and this is really hard." And I think that's what this conversation has talked about, is about the importance of talking about it out in the open. And once you start to do that, everyone starts to realize, wow, I'm normal, I'm going through this as well. It's okay to feel this range of emotions. So I think the network in particular has been great because we've been able to share how we're feeling, and a lot of people who may be experiencing poor mental health, maybe the first time in their lives, can actually see that there's ways that you can do to manage it, getting out in the sun and eating well, exercising, meditating, gratitude, all those amazing things that you can practice daily to help you through this sort of pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there've been so much sharing that's going on. As Sarah's touched on there, Emily, I bet now you know a lot more about yourself and a lot of your colleagues for what you've experienced together the past few months.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm a little bit a social person as well. So for me, it was quite challenging not having that constant interaction with people around you. So it was about, I guess, it was an opportunity to come up with different ways to show people that you care about them and you're thinking of them, but virtually, instead of that sort of face-to-face coffee conversation. So, and that worked with not even just that was staff and clients, and that was a real challenge, but an exciting challenge for me to really consider how I could support my wider team. Because as you said, getting through it, you started to realise who was, I guess, withdrawing, who was picking up the phone more often, who was sending the emails. So it gave you that real opportunity to consider how we're going to bring our team and our clients together and make sure that everyone is doing okay and feeling okay, because I think everybody deals with mental health and mental well-being in very different ways. For me, it wasn't a matter of making sure I was getting my exercise in or not. It was, I guess, keeping my mindset right and positive, and I guess looking to the future rather than sort of getting stuck here in that moment.
And Kriston, what we know is, as Emily's touched on there, getting the mindset right, it's not always easy, is it?
No, it isn't. And, I think we've got to start by very much acknowledging how people are feeling, and very open and transparent feeling, and unlocking those sort of challenges. And, I think as an individual and also as a leader, bringing that humility and transparency in relation to what you're going through really opens up those conversations, because everyone's very much impacted differently. And, when I reflect on some of those early periods within COVID, one of the best things that we did as a team was very much rotate the chairs on daily discussions to allow people to bring different experiences and perspectives. And it very quickly made people feel like they're not alone. And as a result of that, and through those conversations, there was a very much a powerful movement in relation to being together and working together to actually make sure that, we all got through this together.
We talk about perspective, Brendan. It was fascinating early on to hear Dom Price talk about, it doesn't really matter what business you're in, whether you're banking or IT, automobile industry, it doesn't matter. You're all in the people business, because without your people, and if you don't look after your people, you can't do anything, you can't achieve anything.
Yeah, I think another great thing he said was our role as leaders or organisations is to return our people in a better state than when we found them. So, yeah, it's been all about the people. And as Kriston touched on, everyone's experienced this differently. And I think that's been really important. And, one thing that we've all learned is to adapt technology a lot faster than probably what some of us are used to. So it's been great to join, various teams that you probably otherwise wouldn't over Microsoft Teams or Zoom and check in on everyone. Like normally you would just pick up the phone and call someone, but it's been great to get on team calls with everyone and check in and have a bit of a laugh from time to time. I think that's been really important.
I've just been proud of the way that people, especially where we live here in Australia, the way people have come together and looked after each other. You know what I mean? And to be a part of, not just saying this because we're all a part of the family, but for ANZ to, stick their neck out and make some content around this is important, I think, because it shows not only people internally, but also, people out there in the wider world as well, that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to look after each other. And when you do, positive things come out of it.
It is okay to be vulnerable. And a question for everyone. We'll start with you, Emily. In regards to that, Miley Carnegie, I thought, was fascinating in that she said she has to work really hard to be open about her vulnerabilities. It doesn't come naturally to Miley.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to share your vulnerabilities, but how do you go with sharing a side of you like that?
That was quite a significant chapter, to be honest. So that really did sit with me. I actually watched that one multiple times. So for myself personally, vulnerability has been quite a challenge to just put myself out there to I guess, make that decision as to how I was going to show up and how I wanted to be seen. Am I going to be perceived in the wrong manner or the wrong light is what I'm trying to put across, what I'm hoping to. So I think it is a daily challenge to make sure that I am stepping up in a way that I hope to leave a legacy behind about the things that I'm passionate about and to share my voice and to truly be seen amongst my peers, my family, my friends, so the whole works. So a constant, certainly an ongoing challenge for myself and one that really sat quite well with me.
What about you, Sarah? Because I'll be interested in your answer, because you earlier mentioned that you've opened up about your mental health. So is that something that you're more familiar with, do you think?
I think in some ways I was lucky because before the pandemic, I made the choice to, I guess, be vulnerable and start talking about my mental health condition openly at work in front of hundreds of people. And by doing that, I think we've touched on it in the series as well. I was able to be authentic. I was able to then start to think I don't have to hide this part of me. I can be myself. And then from that, amazing opportunities like present themselves, like being here today, like creating, a mental health network at an organization when now, we really do need it and people need to hear about these things. And every day I can get up and be myself and not fear that I'm hiding part of myself. So anyone out there that's thinking, I don't know if I should share who I am, I think the day that you start to share who you truly are and any sort of vulnerability is the day that you get to truly be yourself and happy. It's like a weight gets lifted off you.
Great insight, and just great to know that that's how you're feeling, Sarah. So thanks very much for sharing that with us. Kriston, are you as open about sharing a part of yourself, your vulnerabilities, as Sarah is?
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking earlier about the challenges we had as a family in terms of getting to my younger brother's wedding and the stress and strain that sort of caused. And that was something I shared with the team very early on. And my wife has her own business. She's in beauty. So she has beauty salons, which have been one of the most impacted industries here in Melbourne. And, I was right there with her, sort of seeing her emotional reaction to a lot of the announcements that were coming through in terms of having to close. And I sort of helped with the admin in that business. And, I was typing out the stand down letters for the staff and part of those conversations with those staff and sort of seeing how that was impacting them. So, all of those things that I was sort of experiencing, I was sharing with my team and sort of how it made me feel. And, those sort of vulnerabilities, I think for my team, demonstrated that, I was, aware and connected to what was going on and also open to how they were feeling. And how many people sort of reached out and sort of said, "Hey, you're feeling okay? How are you dealing with it? Anything I can do?" was just very, very warming. And I think those sort of, that authentic approach very much is what sort of connects people. And, one of the things that, I've been reflecting on a lot, with my team is the opportunities in all of this. And I think, Georgia, one of the things she said, what if we think about this or reframe this like it's not happening to us, it's happening for us, and that reframing very much opens up this possibility of what can we actually do to make us better throughout this period. I think being more real is absolutely part of that. And the working from home thing has been so good for that. I've got the 5-year-old and 3-year-old, the homeschooling thing, and to see people with kids on top of their shoulders and typing, has been great to actually share with other members of the ANZ team. It's very much sort of brought family to be part of the ANZ workplace. And it's even deepened the connection with a lot of our customers who have had those sort of experiences. And it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of a joke. But I think what I'd like to see, if you jump onto something like LinkedIn, instead of it all being a picture of, Kriston Shelkin in his suit and tie, Kriston Shelkin and, Anton, Allegra and Steph, my wife, and actually being more aligned to what we actually represent as ourselves in social and family connections and community connections. So all of that, I think, is one of the great positives of COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brendan, as Kriston's touched on there, it's been real. Like, if kids are running around or someone knocks on the door or your Zoom connection drops out, or I know a couple of times our cat Muffin starts to walk across in front of me and I'm like, what? And then I found myself going, who cares? Half of us has got pets. This is what's happening. This is the world we're living in. And that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And I think we've learned to love that part of these calls over Zoom or Teams is, when you see the kids in the background and, prior to COVID, we'd probably all apologising for it, but we don't need to apologise anymore. Like, it's just part of the way we go about our business. And, it's great to see kids come in and mum or dad put them on their lap just for a few minutes while we're still talking. You can be on mute and you can still pay them some attention and things like that, or you can pick the dog up and, it does bring a smile to everyone's face, and it might, change the subject for a small second. But it does bring joy to people's lives. I think that's been, such a silver lining in all this, that we have been able to share more of ourselves and more of our families with our colleagues. And like Kriston said, vulnerabilities connect us. And I think, sharing more about us certainly does help that connection, which does build great teams and resilient teams and does help you get through times like this.
We're about to wrap things up. I want to put a question to all of you as we finish. So we've gone through COVID. Spanish flu was give or take 100 years ago. Let's say once all going well, we move on from this, fingers crossed. Let's say something happens in another 100 years of a similar nature. What would be your advice if you could record something or write something down to say to somebody in the future, if you encounter what we went through, here's my one piece of advice? And I know it's a mighty question, but I have faith in all of you giving us a fantastic answer. And I have enormous faith in Sarah. What would be your single takeaway that you would pass on?
I think it would be to slow down, embrace life, and just do some work on finding out who you are and what you want from life and what's important for you. Because I think this is a great opportunity to do that, to slow down and not get caught up in the hustle bustle of I have to do this and I have to be there and I have to go there, and just slowing down and going, who am I? What do I want from life, and what makes me happy? And then coming out the other end, working towards that, definitely.
Which is exactly what Georgia touched on, didn't she? What if this is happening for us, not to us? Emily, what about you?
Oh, absolutely. Just be true to your why, I guess, at the end of it. So stick to what really matters and what gives you that fire in the belly, and just continue to challenge yourself, but shift your expectations. There was a lot of conversation about armor, and I think knowing what your triggers are and then being able to control your approach, given obviously that we can't control the circumstance. So I think that's really important.
And the sage advice from Kriston?
Would be genuine with how it's impacting you, because you won't be alone, and encourage that togetherness. The other thing I would say would be just focus on what you can do to stay connected, and live to those big rocks, those things that really drive your purpose, whether it's family, community, something else from a professional perspective, to keep those things alive and well.
And Brendan, what about you?
I think the key bit of advice, Brad, is just control what you can control and focus on that, and spend less time worrying on what you can't control. I think Pippa put it perfectly in her episode around fear and not, controlling your emotions and not worrying about what could happen, but just work in what you know today and focus on what you can control. And I think from a leadership perspective, it's all been around focusing on the well-being of our people. I think one of the leaders in our episode said that 5 or 10 years ago, if you spoke about well-being, it was just one of those subjects that wasn't potentially on the radar. But I think Christon will recall we had a leadership conference only back in 2018, so we're only talking 2 years ago, and well-being was a topic that came up on day one in one group as an area that we should be improving. This was one group out of 12, and it was still seen amongst that group a little bit as a topic that people were a little bit uncomfortable talking about. But the following day, when we got split up into our 12 groups again, and we all had to pick one thing that we wanted to improve in our business, 9 of those 12 groups said the well-being of our people. And from that point, we've come along in leaps and bounds as an organisation. And I think the other great thing about COVID, in a way, is it's bringing these well-being conversations to light a lot more. So, these conversations were important pre-COVID. They're super important during COVID, and they're going to be really important post-COVID. So I think that journey in itself's been great, and that would be a key message, to people going through this again. Focus on your people and the well-being, and educating them to get through the anxiety, to get through the what ifs, and really focusing on what you can control and doing those little things, going for a walk, getting your diet right, just staying on top of your health and well-being, super important. Absolutely.
And Dylan, I imagine you won't leave us with a quote. You'll be leaving the next generations a book, wouldn't you? Another one.
Don't know about that. I mean, I can't say anything better than what's already said. The two things would be: don't panic, first and foremost. And secondly, it's about we, not me. I think as soon as people started to realize that it's, about your families, your co-workers, our community, our country, that I think that group mentality made everyone feel a lot better by checking in on everybody else. As soon as I started doing that, I started feeling better about myself, but everybody around me, and as a team, we can get through this, and we have got through this. And my last bit of advice is make sure you get a haircut on day one of the pandemic, because hairdressers closed for 208 days, and then you end up looking like this, Brad. So I'm excited for Melbourne to start opening up soon, so I can finally go on.
Absolutely. I think another good thing, Dill constantly said throughout the series, talking about it makes you feel better. So the conversations you can have with people around how you're feeling, super important.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's going to go on beyond when COVID's finished, hopefully. You know what I mean? So it's not just about during a pandemic. Hopefully these things that we've learned continue on in business, but also in our personal and professional lives as well, because you're right, there's so many great learnings, Brendan, and it's just nice that this is going to affect a lot of people, hopefully for the positive, once all the hard times are done. So yeah, it's been a tough time, but I think, as you said, there is light at the end of the tunnel now, but I think we'll be better people because of it.
And my two bobs worth, kindness has always been so important, but we have seen firsthand how positively it can impact people and help people that really need an act of kindness the past few months. So it's been fantastic for their mental health and well-being, and ours as well. Before we finish, one thing I should reveal is that as much as the final product came up really well and we're really happy with it, it didn't always quite go to plan. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello. Can I just say, you guys are great wavers. And to those of you watching this chapter, you will notice that this is a different location. Here I am in the living room, and it's fine. One of the underestimated benefits as well is you only have to get dressed from the top half up. I'm currently wearing like footy shorts, and I can get used to this. There you go. Look at that. Can I just ask for the fellow Victorians, I can't get a haircut for the next 6 weeks, is that right? No, it's closed. Do you want to come to my home barbershop? I've got a mullet. Look at this. Can you see? No. Thank you, Dylan, but no. I will continue now, and I'll do the same spiel that I delivered earlier. Yeah,
I've got the same clothes on.
Yeah, it's a continuation.
It's a continuation.
Okay, I just thought they were like going to do it another week. I was looking for an outfit change.
I'm with you.
I forgot to put my lipstick on.
Well, now, Lex, that is up to you. So you do whatever you want to do. There's a lot to talk about for obvious reasons right now around resilience and perspective. So let's get rolling.
Pardon the pun. Leave that in, please.
Well, what is the outtakes where you do your best work, isn't it, Phil?
Mark, can you give us a double Cobra flex? Like the Hulk Hogan?
The Hulk Hogan, there you go. That's from, you can see I've been working out on the old Shop on the Wood.
Flexing. Oh.
The old Merv Hughes.
I'm in Sydney and I am outrageously well.
Oh, thanks. That's just what we want to hear in Melbourne. That's fabulous.
Having away neighbours. That's what I thought I'd get when I arrived here. I thought everywhere would look like Summer Bay.
Does it?
No, like in neighbours, they just walk into each other's houses. If you do that here, people call the police.
I've been making myself laugh on this call because I reckon, Mark, you look like a really cool DJ with those headphones on right now. And I reckon I'm just been thinking that you have like this underground DJ career.
I probably know less about music than most humans.
I'm a bit of a fist pumper when I dance, so a couple of these ones never go astray.
Georgia Murch. G'day, Georgia.
G'day, Brad. It's nice to see you again, darling. Thanks for having me.
You know this is going to be a great chat when somebody refers to you as darling. So I'm certainly...
darling, love, chick.
Bear with me. I was trying to juggle. Our cat Muffin has decided to pop up onto the desk here. So it was such a great answer. Normally I would let Muffin take centre stage, but I didn't want her to distract from what you were saying, Pippa.
I can't believe we've got muffin and sauce on the call. That's amazing.
Yes, muffin and sauce.
Okay, we'll get into it now. We pause. I pick up again.
I thought you did all this naturally, Brad, and it just carried on.
I feel like you've just given me the secret to reflecting on my past few years of dating. What have I loved, longed for, loathed and learned?
Mic drop moment from Georgia.
Yeah.
Smiling or thumbs up or...
Got to be some of the more awkward stuff we're doing. I like it.
Yeah, coming up next week in the Wellbeing conversation. I'll just do a couple more serious ones. Now I'll try not to laugh. Yeah, we certainly had a lot of fun and a few takes there along the way. To all of you today, thank you. Thank you for your wonderful feedback. For Dylan and I and everyone involved, it warms the cockles of our heart to know how much you got out of the Wellbeing conversation, and that's what it was there for. It was there for you and all of the ANZ people and your extended families, friends, anyone that wants to watch it. So thank you very much. So to Sarah, Emily, Kriston, Brendan, and of course, Dylan, thanks very much. We've certainly really appreciated your time today. Good luck for everything. And to everyone that's enjoyed the Wellbeing conversation, thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, Dylan Alcott again. Now, we touched on a few topics around mental health throughout that chat. Now, if that brought up anything for you, make sure you reach out to beyondblue.org.au, or their phone number is 1300 22 4636. You can also hit up Lifeline on 13 11 14, or reach out to the people within your ANZ teams and they'll be able to help.